Peppa Pig's universe is filled with talking animals, but where are all the people? Have you ever wondered about the lack of humans in Peppa's world? Today, we're diving deep into this fascinating mystery to uncover the surprising truth behind the missing humans in Peppa's world. Most of the fans simply think that there were no humans in Peppa's world to begin with, but that's not true, because throughout the series, we've gotten multiple clues that humans in fact existed way before the talking animals. The presence of technology like cars, computers, telephones suggest a level of advancement that typically belongs to humans. Yet, these roles are filled by pigs, sheep, dogs, and other creatures who walk upright, talk, and engage in human customs. And in the episode Stone Age Granny, we discovered concrete evidence that humans existed in this world. During their imaginative play, Granny Pig references ancient humans who lived in caves, ate berries, and chased mammoths.
When people lived in caves, ate berries, and chased big hairy elephants called mammoths.
This single line tells us about the history where humans were the dominant species. Another clue that Peppa's world was humans' world comes from the depiction of statues around the globe in places that Peppa and her family visit. For example, when the Pig family visit the United States, one of the first things they see is the famous Statue of Liberty in New York, and the face of this huge historical artifact is clearly that of a normal woman. In one episode, Peppa and George are helping Grandpa Pig dig in his backyard for old items, and Grandpa Pig finds a historical coin. If we zoom into it, we see it bears the face of a Viking man, referencing the time when Nordic peoples invaded England many centuries ago. This indicates that the area where Peppa, her family, and friends live was once inhabited by ordinary humans and likely had some kind of settlement. Similarly, in one of the episodes, we can see a rhinoceros reading a book, and on its cover is a pair of ordinary humans, possibly depicting a story like Romeo and Juliet or some other love story. All these clues point to one thing. This world does have humans, or at least it did, so where could they possibly be? But before we dive into this mystery, first let's look at the existing humans in Peppa's world. The first human we see in the Peppa series is Santa Claus. This happens in Season 3, Episode 52, called Santa's Visit, where all friends and townspeople receive their gifts, but not Peppa, which makes her very sad. But eventually, Santa returns and personally delivers a gift to Peppa, confirming that he indeed exists, and is not some sort of piggy Santa, but rather a human with a huge white beard, whose actual role is delivering presents to everyone at Christmas. Although considered a magical and fantastic being, we can't deny that Santa Claus is a human with human traits, very different from all other characters in the series who are almost entirely animals that act and dress like humans, even though they still possess very strong animal instincts. Now let's talk about a character who actually existed in both our world as well as Peppa's. We're talking about none other than the Queen of England. She made her very first appearance in the episode The Queen, which at the time was a nod to the real Queen Elizabeth, who was still alive and reigning over Peppa's country. In this episode, the Queen decided to reward the hardest working resident in all of England, who, as you might have guessed, is Miss Rabbit. Miss Rabbit then heads to the royal palace, bringing along all the children from Peppa's playgroup to meet the Queen. Thus, we see that it's not just magical beings in human form that inhabit Peppa's planet, but also ordinary humans like the Queen. And more than that, from this point, we learn that an ordinary human is also the queen of animals like Peppa and her family and friends. This implies that if she exists, surely other humans must too, since she must have had at least a mother and a father who brought her into this world. And the final human to exist in Peppa's world is none other than the pirate. In the episode The Police Station, the Pig family asked the police to find George's missing dinosaur toy. So, the officers bring the Pig family to the lost and found section, and as the officers show Peppa's family all the items stored in their lost and found, we see some pirate treasure among them. One of the officers say how odd it was that these treasures left there by people who believed they had been lost by their owner had never been claimed by anyone. Just then, a human pirate appears at the door of the police station, looking like he's about to enter. But at the last second, he changes his mind and leaves. It actually makes sense, because the police would ask where he got that treasure, and he wouldn't have an answer. After all, pirates steal treasures, so he could have ended up in jail. Maybe that's why he changed his mind at the last minute, and and didn't enter the station. So, if humans clearly existed and even thrived in Peppa's world, where did they all go? Why do we see so few of them now, relegated to specific, almost symbolic roles? The answer might be far more intriguing than you imagine. Many fans might not realize it, but the world of Peppa Pig bears a striking resemblance to a darker, more complex narrative. There's a fascinating theory that might unravel this incredible mystery about humanity within Peppa Pig's series. It all seems to stem from a cartoon created by 3 friends and inspired by a fable contained in a book called Animal Farm. The story describes farm animals, including cows like Mrs. Cow and Mr. Bull, sheep like Susie and her mother, as well as horses, rabbits, and other animals. These animals unite and expel the farm owner, taking it over for themselves, and then begin to live without the presence of humans. And guess who the leader of these animals was? None other than pigs. Their leaders were the pigs, considered the most intelligent of all, much like Peppa and her family. If this theory holds true, it would mean that at some point, the animals of Peppa's world revolted and drove most humans out of the cities, effectively taking over society for themselves. This would explain why we see animals in positions of power, running shops, operating vehicles, and generally acting as the dominant species. The few exceptions we see, such as the Queen, who represents the country, Santa Claus, a magical figure perhaps too powerful or beloved to be expelled, and pirates, who mostly live at sea and might have been too elusive to be caught in the uprising, were simply not involved in this past rebellion. But what if the truth is even deeper than an animal uprising? What if Peppa Pig's world isn't merely a consequence of a rebellion, but a glimpse of a distant future? Imagine a time when humanity, much like the dinosaurs, became a species of the past. Perhaps the highly evolved, talking animals we see are the inheritors of a world once dominated by humans. They might have risen to prominence in the void left by humanity's disappearance, developing their own societies and cultures based on what little they understood or inherited from the humans. This would explain why their architecture and technology sometimes mirror our own, while their fundamental nature remains distinctly animal. So maybe, much like dinosaurs, humans were also extinct at some point in time. So the animals evolved and took over the world, and the rare appearances of figures like Santa Claus and the Queen could be interpreted not as contemporary humans, but as almost mythical, legendary beings, perhaps even the last of their kind, holding on to traditions from a forgotten era. The pirate, an anomaly, might be a lone wanderer from a more primitive, wilder time, a living relic of humanity's distant past. This theory suggests that Where Are the Humans isn't about an untold conflict, but about the natural progression of life on Earth, where one dominant species gives way to another. Peppa Pig's world, then, becomes a fascinating glimpse into a potential future, where the echoes of humanity are all that remain preserved in historical monuments and stories, while the animals reign supreme. So, is Peppa's world a post-apocalyptic landscape where humans have faded into history, or is it merely a unique parallel dimension? What do you believe happened? Let us know in the comments below.